right here, Beez from KNOTFEST.com. I'm delighted to be joined by Chase Mason from Gatecreeper. You just released an unexpected reality, which was true to the name itself, unexpected, because it was dropped out of nowhere. Having worked in the business, the only example we have on this in the world of rock and metal is when Avenged Sevenfold did it a while ago. Like, the surprise release has been something that's been very prevalent in hip-hop and those kind of things. But in the worlds of rock and metal, it's less the norm. What was the thinking behind dropping things in that manner?
I think that just given the current state of the world, and everybody is just inundated with information and just so much content, whether it's just from social media or it's just from the news media with everything going on in the world. There's just so much going on. I felt like it was going to be hard to keep somebody's attention for the normal rollout. So we thought we would experiment a little bit. Like you said, it's not something new in hip hop or pop or whatever it is. It's pretty standard now to just kind of surprise release, but in rock and metal, it's definitely not something that is used very often, if ever. So gave it a shot. It was an EP and it was something a little bit different for us musically. So we thought it would be a good one to take a chance on, and it worked out really great. It's
not exactly the sort of record where you can send a song to radio, is it? Do you know what I mean? No. Gatecreeper is like music to burn your house down to.
Yeah. And also, not only is it not something to you can send to radio, but also if traditional rollout, there's always, a couple songs pre-release that you put up on streaming or have a music video for. And the way that this record is, where 7 of the songs are a minute long and then one of them is 11 minutes long, there wasn't a song that we wanted to release first. We wanted it to be absorbed all at once.
It would have been hilarious to release Emptiness as the single and make people think that's what they were going to get, and then ripping.
Yeah.
So, I'll ask about the songwriting before we go back on to where it fits and its place in the world. But, so, it's been a year since it was official that Nate was concentrating full-time on Spirit Adrift and you were concentrating full-time on Gatecreeper. How much of that do we hear on this EP?
It's not much different because the songwriting was always one way or the other. Nate was writing, Spirit Adrift stuff, and me and Eric were writing Gatecreeper stuff for the most part. So there wasn't any real stylistic differences based on that. There is stylistic differences based on what we wanted to do, right? Faster songs and slower songs. But as far as the lineup change, it didn't have any effect on the music itself.
I was interested because in that last 11 minutes, I keep saying this to anyone that will listen, but it feels like we're in a really fucking great era for lead guitar players. So when I hear Chemist and fucking Spirit Adrift and all these bands, like, there's so many really fucking great lead guitar players out there at the minute. And Emptiness, that was one of the things that stood out to me the most. Was, as a fan for the last couple of years of your band, I didn't see that foot on the mountaintop, guitar out style lead guitars coming from Gatecreeper. Is that one of the things that was the intentional stylistic changes, and how fun was that to indulge yourself in?
Yeah, it was really fun, and it was definitely intentional. We've definitely tried to, even on Deserted, going into that record, it was something that the leads and having cool lead guitars was something that we wanted to move forward into. When we did our first record, it was cool. It was the songs that we had written from the beginning of the band, and then doing Deserted, our second record, we looked back on the first one and saw what can we do better, what more can we add, what can we expand upon, and leads were one of those. So then going into this one, it was even more exploration of things we hadn't done, or I have some things we maybe touched on before. But yeah, that lead, that was something that I wrote myself. That it was like I kept calling it the pop metal lead, because it was just like, whether it was like Paradise Lost was a big one influence. Amazing. But even like a band like Him or something like that, that's like a I'd call a pop metal band.
Yeah.
That was the influence for that. So I'm glad that it translated to the listener.
That's fucking amazing, because those are two bands that I associate with, like, real fucking exuberant human emotion. Like, those Paradise Lost and Him have a lot of emotion in their music. How do you fit that kind of fit? How does a pop metal, like, real fucking Guitar Hero moment fit into Gatecreeper? And is that a kind of showing of, for your future, like, there are less boundaries and rules for Gatecreeper than people might think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been trying to kind of carve our own path, where we started in a very niche, like sub genre of old school death metal, and things are very done very traditionally and fundamental. There's kind of a box put on it, and we've tried to take those influences and continue to make it our own thing. Whether it's influences from punk or hardcore, or for different types of metal, or for non-metal. We've been slowly incorporating new things, and like you said, expanding our sound so that it's kind of transcending any sort of subgenre that we've started in, or that we were initially just solely influenced by, and just bringing in more things in to make it our own sound. I mean, we're not doing anything new. Like I'm aware enough to know that what we're doing is very referential to the stuff that we like, and so we're just trying to make it almost like a mixtape, or like a Frankenstein monster of just all the things that we like. So yeah, incorporating new stuff, but still kind of injecting it into the Gatecreeper sound is something that, yeah, it's a sneak peek on that, and we're going to continue to do that.
That's so fucking interesting to me, because so many bands shy away from their influences. It's so fucking nice to hear someone say, I like this, and this. We crushed it together to make its own kind of thing. Like, if someone was to go and check out, say, a couple of bands that are the referential points for Gatecreeper, because that's where the money is for people now, for like wanting to find new music all the time. Who are the bands that go into Gatecreeper that Gatecreeper fans might not even be aware of?
Well, I think the obvious ones that are part of the Gatecreeper formula is Obituary, Bolt Thrower, and then one of the Swedish death metal bands, whether it's Entomb, Dismember, Grave. That's the kind of the core formula. But I mean, ever since the beginning, Crowbar has been a big one. And I think, there's a little bit of doom that's always been incorporated in it. Like as far as like a modern band, Hooded Menace is one of my favorites.
Right.
For like a death doom band. And I would say that's the kind of entry level ones, or like that's the kind of obvious. But there's anything from like we like Madball. I like Madball. So
right.
If we want to put a Madball part in there, we're going to put a Madball part in there, But the other stuff comes in bits and pieces. But I would say that those were the kind of the solid foundation. The death metal plus Crowbar has always been a big one.
Mate, I spent a morning when I was on holiday in New Orleans. My wife stayed in bed, and I just spent a morning walking around looking at the post-alcoholic debris that was everywhere while listening to Acid Bath and fucking all of those bands. Good fucking time.
Did you find that statue that's at the beginning on the cover of Sonic Excess? Did you
I
find
didn't.
That statue?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that it was. So I was right round by Bourbon Street and all that way. Is it in that kind of area?
Yeah, it is. We went our first time when we were on tour in New Orleans. We made it a journey to go and find that statue and take pictures in front of it. It's just in front of a church.
Fuck yeah! Rite of passage stuff.
Yeah.
So. We got to talk about Nuclear Blast, because you dropped this EP. When you boil up an unexpected reality, I have literally no idea where Gatecreeper will go in the future, because for 4/5 of a record, you kind of feel like you do, and then you're hit with this 11-minute thing at the end. How significant a deal is Gatecreeper signing to Nuclear Blast for Gatecreeper? What are the pros for this that people might not understand?
Well, I think that for us, it just came down to wanting to grow as a band. We've continued to grow from when we started. You know, we signed to Relapse early as a young band. Our first record was on Relapse, and we definitely grew while we were on Relapse. And we, you know, when that contract was up, we looked at where we wanted to go, and we wanted to continue our growth. And Nuclear Blast came in the picture, and Monty Connor, who is the guy we've worked with at Nuclear Blast, like, I don't know, you probably know who he is. He's a legend. You know,
We've been mates for years.
Yeah, so he was with Roadrunner, and he signed to some of our favorite bands. He signed Obituary, he signed Sepultura, signed Slipknot. You know, he signed Typo Negative. He signed all those bands. So the fact that he was interested and that he wanted to sign our band, given his resume, that was something that held weight with me. And then actually getting to talk to him, and we shared our vision on a lot of stuff. You know, like when I can talk about Obituary, talk about their World Demise record of like how they're doing something, you know, a little bit more kind of accessible type of death metal, or when I'm talking about Deicide, Once Upon the Cross, about one of my reference points of making death metal catchy. He's like, oh yeah, I worked on that record and all that stuff. So we saw eye to eye pretty instantly. And I think that just also their reach as far as in Europe, which is something we've only been to Europe once. We were supposed to go last summer for a bunch of festivals, but I think that Europe has been something that we have neglected a little bit. And it's been a little bit short-sighted or narrow-minded because, you know, just because we're from the US and we know a lot of our fans are in the US, there's a whole lot more people as far as a percentage of the world that are in other parts that maybe we didn't give the attention to that we needed. And I think that Nuclear Blast is going to help us, you know, reach a lot more people as far as the whole world is concerned.
Do you know what I love about this chat, Chase? I love so many bands in the underground, right? But so many of them stay within their box through creative limitations and don't have that level of ambition. Is it about just taking heavier music further than it's been? Because we've started to see it in all manner of places. We've started to see extreme metal in bigger places. Like to see Behemoth on a stage that wasn't a main stage at a festival, an arena supporting someone, or a couple of 1,000-cap venue now, like, would be fucking unheard of. And when you watch buzz for a band like, I don't know, I haven't stopped playing the Undeath record, right? I fucking love it. And you see real, genuine buzz for bands like them and Sanguisuga Bog and all these kind of bands that are doing heavy shit. Do you think heavy music can be bigger than it's ever been? Because it feels like the world is kind of ready for heavier shit. Certainly metal fans are. When more and more mainstream heavy music gets watered down to the point that it's borderline not heavy music. Do you think there's there's a bigger platform out there for heavier bands?
I mean, I think that there is. I definitely am trying to be part of the wave of heavy bands that take it to as far as we can. I think that I wouldn't say that it has the ability to be bigger than it ever has before, because I think that there was a point where it was.
Yeah, the Floridian
I don't think
million sellers. Yeah.
You know, but I do think that it is time now that it's going to be bigger than it has been in a long time. I guess that would be safe to say. You know, they talk about, you know, how just guitar music is dead. And rock music, and just, you know, you turn on the radio and there's probably not any sort of, you know, even radio stations that would typically play like modern rock or whatever, there's not really any rock, let alone extreme metal. So that's its own thing, but I think that that's created this underground movement where because of streaming and the accessibility to new music, that people are finding new extreme music, whether it's in response to it being missing from the mainstream or whatever. But I think people are hungry for it, and I want to give, you know, I want to make our band or heavy music as accessible as possible for anyone who wants to hear it.
That's it, man. Like, I get so frustrated with bands that get to a certain level of popularity by being heavy and then cut that out. Like I feel like the movement that's happened in recent years, like Code Orange, Jesus Piece, like fucking all of those bands that have begun to do bigger things, Power Trip, of course, like it feels like a fucking response to that. It feels like, why does this keep happening? Why like it? You can be accessible and heavy. Like, look at the bands of their eras. Every band that headlines festival to this day were fucking nothing like everything that was popular at the time, and not always in a way that was more palatable. Sometimes it was just gnarlier than what was going on. You know, Metallica don't end up in arenas when fucking Kip Winger's on MTV. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's always a response to that bullshit. Does it feel like there's a response to synthetic sounding fucking auto-tuned vocal bullshit?
Yeah. I mean, we even seen within death metal where there's been the resurgence of like old school death metal sort of style, because it got a little bit too polished, a little bit too clean, and the whole old school death metal movement is to take it back to where it was dirtier and uglier and not as slick or whatever, which, that's where we started, like I said, and we've tried to make it into our own thing. But I think that there's like dirty words in as far as underground music extreme, where when you talk about accessible, people take that as a bad thing, where you don't have to make any compromises to make it accessible. You don't have to quote unquote sell out or start. I'm not going to start singing in our songs or anything like that. But I think that being accessible is cool. Like I said, if people are looking for it, I want to be there for them to find it. It's also the same with, like, we've always tried to make catchy songs. And if you talk about writing catchy death metal or using the word catchy within the extreme metal landscape, people are assuming that means it's going to be poppy. Like, you don't have to be poppy to be catchy. You can write memorable songs without it being watered down or whatever. So I think it's just kind of finding the sweet spot of where you can be there, where, the goal, at least for us and for me, is like, if there's somebody that's not super into extreme metal as maybe you and me or whatever, but they're somewhat interested in it, and if they have the bandwidth for 5 heavy bands that they like, I want to be one of those 5.
Fuck yeah.
So and I think that being a gateway band is not a bad thing either. Like, everybody needs a gateway band. Everybody needs their first death metal band before they've if they decide they want to go in that route. But everyone has to start somewhere. So, like, if we can be somebody's first death metal band, that's cool. Like, I'm totally happy to fill that spot.
I love that.
I think.
Go on.
I think that some people, as far as like in underground metal or whatever, a lot of the things that I've just said, they will think that's, they'll look down upon that, but those are all things that I think is cool, and I think that is exciting for our band and for other people. Like, I think people getting into heavy music is exciting. People want it. It's very people want to be like elitist or gatekeeper, what they say, of like, you can't, they don't want to give anybody any leeway to get started. It's just like, oh, you're just getting into this, you're a poser. Like, I don't think that's a good mindset.
No.
Because I remember when I was getting into heavy music or whatever, like, you got to start somewhere. So I think that's cool. I think that's exciting.